you ready to kickstart your career? Get ready to shake hands with success at the City of Lee Summit's Career Expo on March 27th, 2 to 6 p.m. From tech to finance, firefighter, paramedic, to police officer, and part-time seasonal jobs, we have it all. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, there's a perfect fit waiting for you at the City of Lee Summit. The Career Expo is your chance to meet face-to-face with city departments ready to hire you. Learn about job opportunities that meet your skills and interests, ask questions, and apply on the spot. When you join the City of Lee Summit team, you're not just getting a job, you're stepping into a world of incredible benefits. Full-time employees enjoy competitive pay, tuition reimbursement, and a generous retirement plan that sets you up for success now and the future. Don't miss the opportunity to explore a world of possibilities and find your dream job with the City of Lee Summit.
Hello, Lee Summit. Here's your flash briefing for the week of March 18th. This week is Fix a Leak Week. Lee Summit Water Utilities wants to remind you that an undetected leak can waste a lot of water in your home and can lead to a substantial water bill. Be sure to visit lswater.net for resources and leak detection tips. The public is invited to the open house of Fire Station Number 5 on March 21st at 2 p.m. at 801 Southwest Layman's Lane. Receive a behind-the-scenes look at the new facility, hear from Mayor Baird and Chief Snyder, and witness the unique hose uncoupling ceremony. Light refreshments will be offered. City Council will meet for regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers in City Hall. If you can't watch, quickly catch up on City Council meetings by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. And be sure to sign up for the city's free alert system, LS Aware. Receive emergency and non-emergency information by text, email, or phone for events such as severe weather and road closures. You choose how you want to be notified. Learn how to sign up on the city's website. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
I'm Assistant Chief Jim Eden.
And I'm Battalion Chief Ben Hicks.
And today we're at Lee Summit Fire Station 3. Fire Station 3 was part of the 2016 no tax increase general obligation bond for public safety initiatives. The station was built and occupied in August of 2020. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we've not been able to give tours or have an actual ribbon cutting. So we want to invite you in today to give you the opportunity to see what goes on within a Lee Summit Fire Department station.
Let's go take a tour. This is our admin side of the facility. We use this side mainly for offices. We have a lot of work during the day, whether it's training or doing reports or just generally taking care of the shift that we need to do. At this particular station, Station 3, we do have an assistant chief that works out of here. That person has their own office where they need to manage what's going on throughout the day with the shift and staffing, and as well as running calls out of here. The captain has their own office as well. What the captain does is at this specific station is in charge of both the fire truck that's here as well as the ambulance. And so with all those personnel responsibilities as well as running calls and reports, that's where they work out of. And generally for the rest of the crew, which is somewhere around 5 to 6 individuals, we have rooms to write reports, and we have additional training rooms and other rooms where people can work. Walking into our living area, I think it's important to recognize that we work 48-hour shifts. So in the evenings, after 5 o'clock, after work is done, we may have the opportunity to catch a game or something else as long as we're not running calls. And this gives us the opportunity to do that. When we go into our kitchen, I think this gives you a great reason to know why we go to the grocery store. When you see fire trucks at the grocery store, what we're doing. Also, for 2 days working for 48 hours, we buy all our meals at the grocery store, and then we come in here and cook, just like you guys do at home. So everybody has their own fridge on each shift, as well as their own pantry, and then we cook those meals here. Going into the sleeping side of things, we've got a couple different things that are significant. We have our own laundry room, which again is important when we're here for 48 hours. The opportunity to wash and clean our clothes and bedding is very important for hygiene. And walking into where our beds are, we keep the kind of sleeping quarters over on one side of the building. It gives us both easy access out to where our fire apparatus are, as well as kind of keeping it a little bit quieter for those people that have been up all night running calls. We have 11 bedrooms here at this station, and the reason we built it with so many bedrooms is we want to give ourselves as a city the opportunity to expand. So if we need to put another apparatus here or numerous other people working at this station, that's already in place as far as infrastructure goes, and we don't need to go back and try to make it bigger or better, and that's really important for us especially because the old station was so small. Back out on the apparatus floor, we had doors facilitated as many places as possible, so that way when we're sleeping at night and a call comes out, we can make our way out fairly quickly to get out onto the truck if we need to and run a call. On the other side of the station, we kind of have other stuff that we may want to keep separated if we want to. Physical fitness is very important to us as firefighters. So in order to better ourselves and make sure we're as healthy as we can to do this job, we have our own gym facility here that we kind of go throughout the day when we can and get an opportunity to come in and work out. Our goal when we run calls, when we get back to the station after calls, our goal is to get ready to go back as soon as we can to run another call. So we have the opportunity or capability here to fill up our air tanks. You can see firefighters wear the big air tanks on their backs and they use those in a fire. We can come back and fill those up and make sure that we're ready to go again when we're wanting to go run another call. We have our own workshop here. We work on a lot of our tools and making sure that everything's clean and operational, and this gives us the capability to do that, again, to make sure that we have everything we need and we're as capable as we can be running calls throughout the city. Cancer prevention is very important in the fire service right now. Because of that, we have an extractor machine, and what this does is gives us the capability when we come back from a fire, we can put our bunker gear into this machine and get all that really nasty crud off of our gear. Again, kind of getting back to that cancer prevention mode, allowing us to be as clean as we possibly can for the next call. And finally is our bunker gear room. We each have our own individual locker. This gives us the opportunity to store our gear when we're not here working in between shifts, as well as keep a clean extra set on here in case we do run a fire and we need to clean our current gear. Typically, this is where your day starts off at the fire station. You come in and get your gear and put it on wherever you're working that day, and then you end the same way, bring your stuff back to your locker to go home after working. This is Med 3. This ambulance just currently moved into the station from Station 7. Station 3, since we've had it built, has turned into one of our busiest stations in the city. Therefore, we wanted to provide the best care in the closest unit as we could. So we moved one of our ambulances up, and this became Med 3 for this particular instance. Out of this station, we also have Pumper 3. And that's a fire apparatus that they utilize to run the calls on this west end of the city. The last vehicle that you see is the chief's vehicle. We have 2 shift chiefs on shift every day, and they split the city. And this chief running out of this station typically covers the west and south area of the city, while our chief of Station 2 covers kind of that northeast section of our city, and they divide it up evenly.
Thank you for going on a tour with us today. If you have any other questions about the Lee Summit Fire Department, please go to our webpage at lsfire.net or follow us on Facebook at Lee Summit Fire Department.
Thanks for joining us on the tour.
Are you ready to kickstart your career? Get ready to shake hands with success at the City of Lee Summit's Career Expo on March 27th, 2 to 6 p.m. From tech to finance, firefighter, paramedic, to police officer, and part-time seasonal jobs, we have it all. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, there's a perfect fit waiting for you at the City of Lee Summit. The Career Expo is your chance to meet face-to-face with city departments ready to hire you. Learn about job opportunities that meet your skills and interests, ask questions, and apply on the spot. When you join the City of Lee Summit team, you're not just getting a job, you're stepping into a world of incredible benefits. Full-time employees enjoy competitive pay, tuition reimbursement, and a generous retirement plan that sets you up for success now and the future. Don't miss the opportunity to explore a world of possibilities and find your dream job with the City of Lee Summit.
It's member level. Thank you, Mayor. Great presentation, Ryan. Thank you. Is there any indicator that shows, are we supporting a need? With
You know, they talk about like gym rats, kids that grew up with their dads that were coaches. Like I was a city hall rat. My dad, Tom Lovell, was hired as the Parks Administrator in 1978 and spent 40 years in public service here in Lee Summit. I would go up on the weekends when he was working and I'd run around and play and do things, and I didn't know what he was doing at the time, but I just knew that was part of our weekend routine some days was to go up and hang out at City Hall. Being part of a city from a young age to now in my adult life, you reap so many benefits from that. The people you know, you care more for something that you've been a part of. My wife and I knew we wanted to raise a family. Just trying to find a community that we thought we could raise our children in, that was good to me. And it just felt like the right move as we were deciding on a city to come back to. Fortunate to have started a business in 2018. I founded Level Insurance Group, and we are a business insurance brokerage. So we help businesses procure insurance. Decided to throw our flag in the ground here in Lee Summit, and it's grown. I also have this passion for learning and curiosity, and I started a podcast series. So I really enjoy this opportunity where I sit down with business owners and tell their story. And get this out to other people in hopes that maybe it betters their life and gives them some inspiration or something. It's going to be a really exciting time, and obviously this city's in my blood. My dad's been a part of it for a long time, so I'm really excited. Thank you all. A lot of people would say I was crazy, right? So why do you throw your hand up and subject yourself to going into city politics? I think, especially as I've gotten older, I just felt, maybe a civic duty, like a responsibility to say, hey, this city's been great to me. Here's a way that I can give back and take some of my skills and put them to work for the people of this city. I wanted to bring a different, maybe way of thinking and take some of my business acumen and see areas that it may apply to how we develop and grow this community and just give a different perspective. One of our biggest challenges, but also one of our biggest opportunities is how do we develop and grow this community? We don't want to grow too fast, but we want to grow at a pace that helps support, who and what we are as a community. So, we've got a lot of opportunities, whether that be through development or parks. We've got a lot of land coming on board. So I just think it's important, it's a challenge, but it's also our greatest opportunity. And so we just got to be smart how we do that. It's just asking some different questions. I'm one that I'm not contrarian for contrarian's sake. What I am is someone will tell me something, and then I want to get to that position with them by just asking thoughtful questions along the way. And then if I can get there, then I feel like we've answered everything we can to move that forward versus, hey, here's kind of how we've done it. I'm never this is how we do it, this is how we've always done it, and this is how we'll continue to do it. Office of Council Member for District 2. All of my practical experience has put me in this position to serve, and I just raised my hand and said I want to do that. For which I was elected on April 5th, 2022. I feel this obligation to carry this legacy that my dad did, my family did, and then giving my kids an environment to grow up in that makes them want to come back. My kids have started rec sports through the Parks and Recreation system, and I'm watching them play soccer on this sport field that my dad helped develop. And my dad's sitting there with me, right? I mean, that's the stuff that really matters in life.
Okay, welcome everyone. Would you please rise for the invocation and stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Heavenly Father, thank you for the blessings you bestow upon us and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, republic for which it stands, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And again, welcome everyone. I'm calling to order the City of Lee Summit regular session number 67. Could I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember DeMauro.
Here.
Councilmember Pryor. Here. Councilmember Felker.
Here.
Councilmember Lovell.
Here.
Councilmember Edson.
Here.
Councilmember Shields.
Here.
Councilmember Hodges.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Here.
Mayor Baird.
Here. All right, first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I have a motion to adopt the agenda by Councilmember DeMauro, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It's adopted unanimously. Thank you. Next is the approval of the consent agenda. I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda by Councilmember Edson, seconded by Councilmember Shields. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. That also passes unanimously. Thank you. Next is Council Roundtable. Items of general interest, community announcements, things of that nature. Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give a shout out to our Downtown Main Street organization for Shamrock the Block that they put on this past weekend. It was really well attended. We went out and watched some of the Irish dancing, and it was a really great event. So it's exciting to see that transition from the parade to a new and hopefully sustainable event going forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Edson.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of people may have noticed that the highways are starting to look trashy around town again, but I noticed that 291, somebody went out and picked up all the trash over the weekend. So I don't know if that was MoDOT or a group of volunteers, but I'd just like to say thank you to whoever did it. It looks great. Now if we can just move down 470, because 470 looks terrible. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. I was just going to let everybody know that we did go to Washington, D.C. last week. A few council members, Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, Councilmember DeMauro, myself, and City Manager, and talked to our friends in Washington about infrastructure, talking about 470 Highway. That is, that's what we talked about. How congested it is and how we have a lot of development coming online the next 5 to 10 years along that corridor, and we're going to need some help, and it's going to be more than just state help. So second time we've talked to him about that, and I thought went really well. So, all right, next would be public hearings. We do have a public hearing tonight, so I'm going to close the regular session and open the public hearing in the matter of agenda item 4A. It's a public hearing about sewer rates and charges. Would all those wishing to speak to this matter please rise and be sworn in by the city clerk?
Mayor and members of council, Scott Eisen, Chief Counsel, Infrastructure and Recreation for the city. I'd like to start by moving that city's exhibits number 1, 2 through 3 be admitted into evidence.
Please enter into the record exhibits 1 through 3.
Tonight is our annual sewer charge hearing. This is a required hearing under Missouri law before the city can set any sewer charges for the city. The city's sewer charges are set to sustain the utility. They're based upon the methodology used in our strategic plan, the wastewater master plan, and the city's comprehensive plan. The proposed changes to the sanitary sewer are all contained within the schedule of charges, the city's schedule of fees that will be under consideration later on tonight in a separate ordinance. But to briefly summarize the charges and the changes, they're going to be setting the sewer rates for the year 2028, since we set sewer rates and water rates several years in advance. They're going to be changing the rates for the years 2026 and 2027 from the original 4% increase to a 5% increase, and changing the sewer tap fee for new construction or an increase in capacity, with the most common being the 5/8 by 3/4 inch line, and that'll be increased by approximately $126. All of these changes were previously presented to the Water Services Utility Advisory Board and were approved by that board. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Eisen? Councilmember Shields.
Thank you. So the increases to the rates for the next couple of years, is that kind of to account for the inflation that we've experienced or other costs, or what? Why is it increased over what we had previously anticipated?
You know, they are based upon inflation, and they are based upon the cost of providing the services and the increase that we have seen in the services that need to be provided, the construction costs, and just a lot of other elements that we have all seen that's been happening in the last several years for the increases. Those increases were previously estimated to be a 4% increase, but after looking at what it takes to sustain the utility and continue to provide the services, the Water Utilities Board, with the advice of the Water Utilities Department, thought that the 5% increase was the needed increase versus the originally anticipated 4% increase. As you can imagine, it's very hard to predict 5 years in the future when we set these water and sanitary sewer rates. So that's why the adjustment was needed. And I think Brent could probably answer some more questions that you have also if you have more direct ones on that.
Okay, no, that's helpful. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. All right, is there anybody here tonight wishing to, Councilmember Felker?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mayor. Just from a technical standpoint, pass the ordinance associated with this hearing are have anything in mind, but if there was an adjustment to be made, does passing this ordinance affect how we do that?
No, this is just a public hearing. The public hearing is just to give everybody the opportunity to talk publicly to the council, to let them know about any support or opposition for any changes to the sanitary sewer rates. So if changes are proposed later on through an amendment to the schedule of fees, what we do right now won't impact that, because everybody still has the opportunity to speak, you know, if they choose to now on those rates.
Thank you. Okay, now is there anybody that would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this application? Please come forward. I'll need you to take the oath first. Please.
Nothing but the truth, so help me God.
I don't know if that will work, if that exactly works. She can swear you in. It'll only take a second. All right, thank you. Ms. Fallenwetter?
Said there were exhibits. Can they be put up so that everybody can see them?
I will go ahead and put them up. I have them on my computer. They're, I will tell you that I just looked at them, and they're fine print and a lot easier to see on a computer or a document if you were to print them out. But Mr. Eisen, put them up for a second.
Thank you, Mayor. And I will point out all the city's exhibits were included in the packet for today. That's available online, so anybody can view those exhibits if they so choose. Exhibit number 1 that the city moved to admit into evidence today is
I just want to see the schedule of fees. I don't need to see all the different amendments.
Schedule of fees is the ordinance that's going to be prepared before the council later on tonight. There's multiple pages to that ordinance, because it does include all the documents and fees associated. But that's what.
Do you have that one? Can you pull it up on your computer? Member Felker?
Mayor, if I could make a suggestion, if we're going to do this, we might as well just pull up the one that's associated with the packet for the ordinance, which would have, show the deltas, the changes.
Okay, that's fine. Mr. Eisen, if you can pull up. Oh, you've got hard copies. Do you have a hard copy of the deltas, the changes?
I was in court this morning.
Usually when someone says that, they're trying to be smart alecky.
Not me, Judge. You got, I tell you, when I'm in court in the morning, sometimes I get in that mode, so I had court this morning.
Twice he did that. Like I said, Ms. Vollenweider, it's going to be pretty tough to see unless you want to pull these documents up on a computer or a phone. Yes, it's 15 pages.
Another page that relates to the purpose of tonight's hearing for the sanitary sewer rates. Give me this page.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this application? Please come forward. All right, Mr. Ison, any further comment? Hearing no further testimony, I'm closing the public hearing and reopening the regular session. Is there any council discussion on this application? Did I forget to clear your name or?
You're good. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thank you. All right. I think I just closed it, so I'm going to move to. No, the ordinance is later tonight. It's not an ordinance right now, so we'll get to that ordinance later. That takes us to public comments. I'm going to let Mr. Reuter go first. Looks like you brought some people with you tonight, so would you like to come forward, sir?
Happy to. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Will Reuter here on behalf of the Home Builders Association of Greater Kansas City. Last before you on March 5th for the first reading of the impact fee related to the expansion of the park system in Lee Summit. And so I come before you tonight with the same level of understanding that I did on March 5th about where this stands. There hasn't been any conversation, negotiation, collaboration as to the nature of the fee itself with any of the entities making the proposal. So at a bit of a knowledge deficit, so I'm going to speak about things that I don't necessarily know everything there is to know about. But I think it's important to think about housing as a game of inches. Having coming off back-to-back Super Bowl winning seasons, we know that those inches and those fractions of an inch matter a great deal, which is why I'm before you to talk about a $350 per bedroom, a $1,200 per unit, whatever the number actually is. The slightest change in any of those calculations on a job site or within a balance sheet can have enormous implications downstream from that, which is why any movement one way or another without a full understanding of its impact is going to have kind of an unknown factor as to ultimately how these types of things are going to be priced in, their ultimate impact, and without the benefit of being included in the conversation, there is a bit of a disparity in what is understood and what could possibly be understood. So while the council did indicate the willingness to move the issue forward at the March 5th meeting, I don't have any new information on where that stands. However, with this in mind and what I've just shared, earlier today, the Board of Directors of the Home Builders Association met and unanimously voted to formally oppose the imposition of an impact fee for the purposes of parks expansion in Lee Summit, simply, again, because of the number of unknowns that exist and the lack of any really meaningful collaboration to have occurred. So an outstanding question that has come up that I do not have an answer to. Obviously, with growth comes additional parks and recreation facility needs. What has not been understood to date is to what degree were new parks, how were they funded, how were they originally built? Is there an ability to go back and look to see if there is some additional collaborative entities that could come together and see if we could not provide an opportunity to move forward together? The easiest entity in the world to tax is the entity that can't provide its consent. And the new home buyer is not someone that can provide its consent to be taxed. in this way. And so recognizing that you're in a position now, having been put in it, where you can either be characterized as anti-park or anti-housing, I think that's an unfair and unfortunate position for you all to have been put in. And please know it was not the Home Builders Association or the residential construction industry that put you in this unfortunate position. So we are hopeful that there is time remaining to come to the table and talk about these things and recognize how truly impactful this would be for not only the current residents of the community, but any future residents looking to call Lee's Summit home. So I'll be here all evening. 3 minutes is a very brief amount of time, so thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. And I do appreciate you bringing people to show support and reporting back to us as to the organization as a whole. Okay, that takes us to presentations. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Ms. Vollenweider. Ms. Vollenweider, please come forward.
I've got a video and,
Can we get the overhead, please?
Beeman. This one. Yep. Okay.
And then there's your play button.
Okay.
We'll get to that, but
All right.
You want the overhead, right?
That one first, yeah.
Just hit stop key. And then when you go back to this, you can just hit podium.
Okay, thank you very much. Teresa Vollenweider, 5201 Northeast Maybrook Road. The first thing I want to show is the deed for between Horn Baseball LLC, that's Doug Horn, Doug and Sarah Horn, and Derek Collins and Stephanie Mullins. The deed, of course, is what has the legal description in it, and this legal description for the deed is from this original survey. And this is the original survey that divided two pieces of property, and that legal description is from here. It's not for Brant Ladwig's survey. And what you want to note is that it says thence along the south line of said quarter section. And then it ends with except that part in roads. Officer Beeman calling Stephanie Mullins.
Hello.
Hi, Stephanie. This is Officer Beeman, Lee Summit Police Department.
Hi.
Hi. Are you guys out of town right now?
Yes.
Okay. I am so sorry. Okay, so she is putting out rocks and dirt where she had the cattle stuff up earlier that was taken down. So she's doing the whole, it's my property, even though it's on the easement, technically, blah, blah, blah. So, but she hasn't gone across where the fence line is and everything. So, I'm not sure what you want us to do about it. She's not listening to us, as you can imagine. So, have you ever had her trespassed from your property?
Yeah, I mean, yes, she was out.
She said, yeah, yes. I had never been trespassed from that property. I'd never been cited. I'd never been warned.
They're trimming a tree.
That was a lie.
That is not that's on our property that, when we called Officer Iceberg, like.
Iceberg, okay.
We called the police when they were putting up the fence.
Officer Iceberg is the person she talked to 2.5 days prior to this, prior to my arrest, and he said, Teresa owns that property that is the road.
We've had multiple surveys. The city is basically, they just took out our fence.
Yeah, I was here for that.
And that section is, nothing's supposed to go on there. Not a bush, a plant. That's what Public Works has told us. And so,
If you look across the street from there, Sanko's have huge, two big ornamental grass plumes and dinosaur rocks, dinosaur egg rocks.
Sign any license agreement, and so therefore absolutely nothing is supposed to be in that section. So technically that little, like when the fence stops, everything beyond that point is ours. So
okay.
Even though she's not on,
The deed says quarter line is their southern boundary and that they have no property in the road.
maybe she's on the opposite side of the fence line in the right-of-way area, or it's.
And that's
he came out and we talked about a harassment report. She won't stop. She will not leave us alone. That's part of the reason why we just decided to go to leave, because she literally, she will not stop.
okay.
She's got my family upset. I'm upset. She just makes us nervous because she just keeps escalating.
Okay. And Iceberg took that report on, what day was that? Was that Tuesday that he took that?
I think it was Tuesday, yeah.
So
Monday
she
or
knows,
Tuesday.
Beeman knows
Okay.
Iceberg took a report.
Ms. Fallenwetter, I gave you an extra minute.
That narrative.
I appreciate it.
I'll pull up the case and see where the case is at, and I'll add to that.
You go to a lot of work to get up here,
what's
and I
going on
don't like only
today.
giving you 3 minutes each week, but this isn't.
And then
This
I'm
isn't
going to get in touch with our prosecutor to
productive.
figure out what we
it's
can
very
do,
important.
because obviously she's
All right,
trying
well,
to say
you're gonna
that
have to
the
come back
city
again
needs
next
to
week.
prove that it's not hers because she owns all the way out to the middle of the road down
Thank you
here
for
to the
coming.
other corner.
All right, that's going to take us to the next agenda item, which is presentations. Get my notes. I'm going to have to talk a bit to kind of frame the conversation, because we got a lot in the packet tonight. So we are a few years in now with regard to negotiations with the Lee Summit Economic Development Council. It was about 3 years ago this month, or maybe next month, April, where we had a big meeting and talked about how were we going to move forward. And then a year later, so 2 years ago, we made a decision to not fund the EDC. And then for the last couple of years, almost 2 years, we've been trying to work things out. And so we haven't made a lot of progress, but until recently, the last few weeks, the EDC board has met with council members. I'm not trying to give you too many kudos, but it was Councilmember Felker that kind of helped push that forward and said, let's everybody meet. And I think it was very healthy and a very positive exchange and discussions from everything I've heard. So I have to I'm not going to go back a few years, but I got to go back at least the last couple of months so we can so this is in the packet. I'm just going to read it so that we can frame the conversation and get all the way through this, and then we can start going through the discussion points. So at the February 6th meeting is where we had the council comments, where discussion was held regarding the status of the EDC and the efforts that are underway to reset and reposition the EDC, as well as the direction that should be pursued for economic development in Lee Summit. From the discussion during council comments, Mayor Baird requested an agenda item regarding the LXT placed on the February 13th meeting to allow further dialogue. So at the February 13th meeting, the council meeting, Lee Summit Economic Development Council Chair, Vice Chair, Bill Brown, provided a status report on efforts being taken by the LSCDC and reported that in having discussions with the private sector members of the board, the board's position is to cease any further discussions or efforts at this time to develop a joint or collaborative measure in support of economic development in Lee Summit with the Lee Summit City Council. Then on March 5th, a few weeks later, the Board of Directors, after having meetings with council members and discussions and such, during their meeting, held a discussion on the position of the EDC with respect to any desire to continue to work toward a partnership with the City of Lee Summit or discontinue efforts towards any partnership. After the discussion, the Board of Directors approved a resolution which is attached to this packet. This action is in draft form as the EDC Board of Directors has not held a meeting to approve the minutes, but they did actually vote and approve the following. It reflects the intention and vote of the Board of Directors on this matter at that March 5th meeting. So here is the approved resolution. The LSCDC Board of Directors is desirous of a relationship with the Lee Summit City Council on economic development matters and believes collaboration between the parties is in the best interest of the community. The board has drafted new bylaws and is prepared to reorganize the Board of Directors. The board is appreciative of the conversations with the council members that have occurred in the past 2 weeks. The board is ready to work with the city on the next steps and looks forward to hearing back from the council. Let's see here, what's this next part? I didn't read this last paragraph. For informational awareness, the Economic Development Organization Best Practices Report, okay, and the EDC Recommendations Report have been included. These reports were prepared by Thomas P. Miller and Associates and were commissioned by the city to provide considerations in moving forward with economic development functions within Lee Summit. Okay. So that's kind of a recap of what's happened the last couple of months, but I think it's important to note that there were a lot of meetings between board members of the EDC and council members, which is always a healthy thing. Board to board, peer to peer is the way it's supposed to work, just like executive directors should be calling and our city manager, and our city manager should be communicating with executive directors. So that's actually the way things get done, I think. So given that, Councilmember Felker, in a meeting with me and others, had put together kind of a spreadsheet saying, okay, what needs to be done. And so, Mr. Dunning, I'm going to need your help with some attachments here. I think the first one is to put up this kind of spreadsheet. Yeah, it's in a spreadsheet, I think, but it's a little bit difficult as far as maybe me trying to facilitate a conversation around this. So I tried to summarize this, and I sent Councilmember Felker some bullet points and said, hey, we got to have a discussion. I can't just go through the spreadsheet like this. Would you help me craft this? So he helped me craft some discussion points for tonight. So Mr. Dunning, would you pull up craft those discussion? Yeah, here we go. So that's the action item. I put that at the top. That's what the LSCDC approved. And then I put down here, and Councilmember Felker he helped wordsmith all this stuff. Questions for council would be, do we want to pursue a discussion with the LSCDC regarding what changes need to occur to move forward together? That's the first question. And then other things for consideration that we need to talk about. If so, to be transparent and not waste anyone's time, what are those changes, including the order and the timeline? For example, the board has indicated, the EDC board has indicated that they will fill the vacant positions with new directors. Right now, they do have current bylaws that would allow them to fill at least four positions, if not five, to fill those positions and with people that have the desire to have a positive relationship with the city as well. Concurrent with filling the positions, this is 2-2 there, commit to resume light programming. That one's really a little bit more on the EDC to decide how they want to do that, but probably would be a positive step. Number 3, follow the current bylaws from here on out, no exceptions. That one is something I've been adamant about for a while, so I wanted to make sure that was in there. Implement, and then number 4, implement new bylaws after the vacant board positions are filled. So once you get some new members in here, some new perspectives, some people in the community that have been watching this, maybe from the outside a little bit, they can help come in and help us take on the new bylaws, bring some new input. Some council members have been a part of those new bylaws discussions and so on. Some stakeholders as well, but now you bring your new leadership in, or additional leadership, and you approve the bylaws, the new bylaws, which would then trigger adding a few more members to the board. So now you've got more people from the community in the room. The new board would commit to a visioning exercise with community partners and stakeholders in alignment with the City of Lee Summit strategic plan by creating the following. So when we had this discussion in this with Councilmember Felker and I, and Mr. Dunning and Mr. Brown and Michael Van Buskirk, we were talking about, and Councilmember Felker kept using the words strat plan light. Isn't that what you called it? Strat plan light? And I kept saying, well, what's framework? Yeah, I kept saying, what's another way to put that? So he called it a visioning exercise. I like to call it a framework, because I remember when we did the strategic plan years ago, which most of the, I'd say half this board was a part of, and many people on the EDC board were definitely a part of when we did the strategic plan. The first thing that the city council did was come up with a vision and a mission statement. So Mr. Dunning, could you give us that example? So I just had him include that in here. We came up with this, we as a council did a retreat, which we've been talking about doing a retreat in the future again. I think that would be really good, because this was really good when we did our retreat. And it was facilitator moderated, and a vibrant community ensuring the finest quality of life for all generations. And then we came up with the mission statement as a city council to enrich lives. I think, actually, we even included some city management in there.
City management team was involved with
that. To enrich lives in our community through collaboration, creativity, and commitment. And then we came up with core values, and they were stewardship, integrity, and service excellence. And so we felt that a strat plan with the city needed to be at least city council led, even though we were going to really embrace the stakeholders in the community and try to get as many people involved as possible, and including all of our community partners, but also the businesses and citizens of every walk of life. So, but this is how we started, and we identified with the city, we did 7 critical success factors. And we did not create this document together as a council, this whole document here, but we did do the part that was in blue. So if you see those headlines there, strategic economic development was one, what we felt was a critical success factor, strong neighborhoods with housing choices, cultural and recreational amenities, community engagement, community health and well-being, collaborative relations with education partners, and city services and infrastructure. So that's what City Council came up with, and then from there we engaged all of our stakeholders and started digging into, and we even hired, again, facilitators to help us dig into the bullet points that you see. And then later on, we had city staff involved as well to create Gantt charts that really go and dig deep into how we're going to achieve these objectives. And our city management is still following the strategic plan to this very day. So when Councilmember Felker said strat plan light, I'm like, well, he's kind of like talking about something like this. How do we get there with it? How do we get to this point with the EDC? And so I think that that's what the new board could do. They could do it on their own, or they could bring in the community partners like they had planned recently, and they could bring some council members in if they would like that as well. But coming up with a vision statement, a mission statement, I think that we've already got the common success factors, but they can take them and modify them or tweak them or whatever they want. But if you would pull that up, Mr. Dunning, we actually have already paid a facilitator to do quite a bit of this kind of homework. And common success factors would be relationship-driven, customer-oriented. This is the kind of EDC we want, in other words, for common success factors. Equity-focused, effective leadership, purpose and plan, guided by results, economic resiliency, and future ready. So, and every time I ever have talked about these common success factors, Mr. Dunning always likes to point out, oh, but don't forget the, what do you always like to refer to? The
Core functions?
yeah, the core functions. So, spoken like a true planner and city manager, he's always saying, well, you've got to remember, you know, what are they based on, though? What are these common success factors based on? They're based on these functions of an EDO: business attraction and marketing, business retention and expansion, entrepreneurial support, and workforce development. So I think that, you know, passing these off to the LSCDC and having them identify, you know, a vision, a mission, core values. We've got some common success factors I think they could run with or tweak, like I said. I think that those are possibilities that could, opportunities that could be addressed in discussion. We don't talk about these types of things in our meetings, but I think this is how we get going back in the right direction, getting on track. I think all this would need to happen so that they could then put this together, put it in written form, a framework, a direction, alignment, and then bring it back to us in after a certain amount of period, however long it would take to do this. Councilmember Felker and I, when we were putting this together, we were like, how long is this going to take? And I think we both think it's going to take 6 months, but that's for you all to give us your input. A minimum of 6 months, I think. And then if they can do that and bring all that together, then they want to bring a PSA, public service agreement, in which they ask for city funding to be a partner in this, to be an investor. They could do so with, I think, a commitment to completing the strategic plan, not just the bullet points that we just saw. They would say, okay, within this next year, we would complete a strategic plan. And I think, how did you word that, Councilmember? You put a robust and comprehensive strategic plan. The other things on here, they just would have to be vetted as we have discussion, but a timeline for hiring an executive director, I think, is very important, because one of those common success factors was effective leadership. And when we talk about effective leadership from the city's perspective, we talk about city council, but we also talk about city management. And I think the same thing goes for the EDC. We need effective leadership at the board level, but also at the administrative level. Discuss the city of Lee Summit-led initiatives regarding hiring an in-house community liaison. Yes, we've talked about this very briefly. We have not gone into much detail, but it's kind of it's something that's lingered for quite some time. How could we have a liaison that could be working with the EDC, with the chamber, with the downtown, with all of our nonprofits, with every single organization that, you know, that we need to be having constant communication with, that also would help facilitate conversations with the city council as well. And then finally, discuss staff support and participation in the above described LSCDC process. That's Councilmember Felker all the way. He wants to get into the details. I don't, but I'll go as far into this as you want, into the weeds, but that's a lot to absorb, a lot to take in. I can tell you this, the board, the EDC board, does not want to waste any more time. That's what they told me. I think I've heard the same thing from council members. So what I was told in the last board meeting when they passed this action item resolution is that they don't want to spend the next 6 months doing all this and then it not work out. I don't either. I don't want to waste any more time, and I know that council members have been pretty urgent to pick a direction and go. So this is kind of one of those nights to say, hey, is this a direction? Or has too much time passed, in your opinion, type of thing. So with that, let me get logged back in since I spoke too long, so I can see who's ready to speak or help. Councilmember Shields, start us off, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So the question, do we want to pursue a discussion with the LCDC regarding what changes need to occur to move forward together? The answer remains no. We're looking here where this proposed plan, can we do all this in 6 months? It's been coming up on 6 months since we had that discussion where some bullet points were presented to us about redoing bylaws and reorganizing the board and all that. And in those 6 months, some draft bylaws have been prepared that haven't been adopted. We've had a presentation where they told us they didn't want to work with us anymore. And I'm not optimistic that in the next 6 months that all this could get done. I don't feel like, I feel like it's been long enough trying to get something together and that it's time to move forward, which is how I have felt. And I feel like, to be completely frank, that this feels like they've tried to wait it out until a new council. That this defunding happened almost 2 years ago. So this is like as long as this could possibly drag out, and we've got elections in 2 weeks, and it feels like it's trying to just push this off until some new folks are up here who are willing to basically put things back the way they were, I understand there's all these bullet points about new bylaws and organization and visioning, but there's been strategic plans, and there's been all this structure in place before. So I guess I feel like this is leading us down the path of eventually going back to funding an organization that has minimal oversight and accountability, and I'm just not comfortable going down that path. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hodges.
Thank you. So I'm on the other side of that. So I would like to pursue, but I'm more on the end where I'm kind of done. Like, let's have a talk. Let's have a talk. We've had plenty of talks and discussions. Let's just get on with it. That's kind of where I'm at. I kind of wish tonight was us just taking a vote saying, are we going to go with them? Are we going to do something different? So we could just move on, because I feel like we're doing a lot of this, bring up sheets, talking about what we should do. It kind of feels like a counseling session every time we're up here. And I'm kind of over that, and I want to just move on and let's get on with it. I personally would like to go with them. I feel like it's been a very tumultuous process, and at the beginning I was kind of on the other side of this, but I think, again, thanking Councilmember Felker for opening the lines of communication between council and the LSCDC. We hadn't had that communication open before. We didn't, and it worked both ways. On both sides, we weren't doing that. But seeing what we were capable of and the conversations that happened, it was very rewarding, and it opened my eyes to a lot of things that I think now, I think through the wake-up call of defunding and all of that, I think it really opened their eyes, and I think the communication of open lines now, it makes a world of difference. When you're communicating, if something's wrong, we have a full council that has every right to go to them, and vice versa. And I think because we didn't have those open lines, that things like this, it came to what we're dealing with now. So, and I, again, when meeting with some of the members, I think we realized that because there was such open dialogue and some honest conversation. And I think honesty goes a long way. And when you're being transparent, and there's also a level of accountability there too. So I'm kind of on the stance where I want to let's just get on with it. I don't want to have, more discussions about the same thing over and over, because it's like beating a dead horse. I'm over it. Let's just move on, figure it out, get on with it. I hope it doesn't take a super long time. I want to just have a functioning EDC. And I think it will. I have high hopes that it will run well. Again, and I think it's because we've had dialogue that's not happened before in the past, because that's what we were lacking we recognize it on both ends, both sides, and I think we can just grow stronger from there. So that's just my stance, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I would echo a lot of what Councilmember Hodges said. I'm all for this plan. Thank you, Councilmember Felker. I know you put in a lot of hours and a lot of work getting everyone together. I would like to, I know that they need to take however long that they need to take to put together what they need to put together, and I support that. But I also want them to know that there are those of us on council that do support the LSEDC, and I also think that I feel like it's a lot of the same stuff I've already stated, but I'm excited to see what they can do. Right now, I feel like we are missing out on so much economic development and bringing so many things to our city right now. I read all the time about north of the river and Overland Park and stuff, getting stuff, and I feel like part of me does wish that we could vote right now. Do we wish to fund them? Do we not wish to fund them? And just vote it and do it, and they can do what they need to do. But I think that taking the time, if that's what they're requesting and that's what we're requesting, I think that that's probably good. I will say also that it was very eye-opening. For so long, I felt like we were only hearing one side of the story, and it was, it's been very nice getting to hear their side of the story, meet them. There's a lot of very successful, very talented, very driven people that love our city just as much as we love our city that are part of the LSEDC. So it was nice getting to meet them and hear their side of the story as well. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, I forgot one thing. You had mentioned that they don't want us to, go through all of this and have expectations for them to do that and then pull the cord again. I think speaking to that, I feel like that's why I would like to do a vote, obviously not tonight, but sooner than later, because I don't want to put them through what we just put them through for the last however many months and then go through it again and then we decide, nope, sorry. And I feel like that's a disservice to kind of what Councilman Pryor was talking about, all the people who don't have to invest their time. They've got businesses to run, and I just don't want to put them in that position or ourselves where we waste more time. I'd kind of like to just commit and make it an actual commitment rather than say, do this, we'll see what we think after you're done. We may like it, we may not. I just don't think that's a very respectful way to move forward, so.
Thank you. Councilmember Edson.
Thank you, Mayor. I wasn't going to really get into this discussion since it's doubtful that I'll be on the dais next time you talk about this. But, I've sat up here for 8 years, and in that time, we've given the EDC $2 million. $2 million, and I can't point to a single thing that they have brought to this city during that time. I wish them the best of luck going forward. I would urge the council moving forward that you ask for transparency and accountability on any money you give to them. One time I asked for an accounting of where the money went, and they said, we can't give you that. It all goes in our general fund. We mix all the money. So we demand transparency and accountability with all other contracts, so this one should be no different. But I wish you the best of luck however this goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
I'm honored to follow their district colleague with their departing words. So publicly, I was one of the previous council representatives that voted to stop the funding of what was going on with the previous EDC as it was organized at that time. And so I don't want to go backwards. I think the question is what you put up here on the screen. Am I willing to continue to move forward to try to work on these items that you and Councilmember Felker have put together? My quick answer is yes. And appreciate Councilmember Felker taking the initiative to organize these one-on-one sessions with some of the board members, which ironically, I think I know 99% of the board members that are on the EDC board and have had good relationships with all of them, have done business with most of them. So I don't question any of that. Integrity, experience, loyalty, commitment to this community. I agree. The comments that have been made, I have no doubt that those individuals that are currently on the board, they have the best interest of the city at heart, just like we do. And so I appreciate the dialogue that we had because it made it more down to earth, more sincere, more personable, I guess. And so I do appreciate that dialogue. I hope going forward we can have more direct dialogue like that. I do agree, though, that we have to put some kind of urgency to this. You know, if it's 6 months, it's 6 months. I don't think we need to rush it, but I don't like it leaving open-ended like it has been the past year, year and a half. Somehow, some way, I know you, on the top part of this page, the board formally, officially voted to pursue and move forward with us as a city. And so I accept that, and I do want to move forward, but we got to put some urgency to these items listed on this page. And the transparency, everything that Councilmember Edson said, 100% agree with that. There's got to be transparency. There's got to be accountability. And I've said this publicly, with full respect to all the corporate sponsors that are on the current board members for EDC, the city is the largest investor. And we get held accountable up here as an elected body to make sure we're good stewards of city public money. And so this should be no different. You know, you all as business owners should understand that. Those of you that are here and those of you that are not here may be listening. And so at the end of the day, that's what I'm going to stick to. Be a good steward of taxpayers' money. And this is a huge investment for us. We got to have accountability. So that's all I have for now. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember DeMoro.
Thank you, Mayor. And first off, I want to thank Councilmember Felker for arranging meetings and putting myself and others in front of the board members that I did meet with. Very good conversations, very, very eye-opening, realizing that there was a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work that went into where they are now. I have softened my thought process quite a bit, but and I do support going forward with the discussion with the LSEDC. But I too am fully aware that the discussions have to be transparent. The process needs to be transparent because we are joining thought processes and hopeful of the outcome for the city. And it's all about the city. So I do support going forward with discussions. The bylaws, I do have questions about that. In fact, I made a proposal to some of the members. Will we see the bylaws when they are finished? Are they finished? Maybe that's the question. Are they finished? Are they ready for ratification? And if not, were the one item that I had asked about, has that been incorporated into the new bylaws? Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if that question can be answered. It is a presentation, so.
They have not finished the bylaws. They're still taking in input. I think that's why they wanted to, I think that's why they held off approving them, was to make sure that they really covered all their bases and hadn't missed anything. So they're probably looking for more stakeholder input, just like you're talking about. So
will we see the bylaws before a PSA?
Yeah, they're going to, in fact, I'm trying to think of the exact email and the conversation, but they're going to send out some kind of communication to the past investors, which we would be included in that, and include the bylaws, the proposed bylaws.
Prior to ratification.
Yep.
Well, okay, then that answers my question, and I do appreciate all the candor that I had in conversations, and realize the dedication that is in the current board, and I want to follow it and see what happens. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Lovell.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think it'd be a surprise kind of where I fall on this, but, I just, looking back, I think, when we first made this decision to defund, there was a leadership problem. And I felt like we, for whatever reason, that wasn't being recognized. And so the drastic measure that we took to kind of defund felt really kind of got things going, at least in the right direction. And, as more and more was kind of unveiled and uncovered, there was a lot that we had to unpack and work through, and I know that was challenging. I do think today we're in a better spot than we were before. I also think that we were maybe not our own worst enemy, but we certainly were very calculated and took a lot of time as we should, to figure out what direction we thought was best for the city and the EDC. I think. The one thing that I keep coming back to is, what transpired here is not unique. It happens every day in the corporate world, and boards sometimes can get lost in the leadership, and mistakes were made. But you don't just, the business doesn't just go away. So you do things to reconstitute the board, find new leadership, get a clear understanding of the goals and aspirations of the organization, and then you make sure your biggest donor, the city, has a line of sight to everything that's going on. And I don't think there's anybody more capable of doing that than our business leaders in this community, especially those that have committed so much time and energy and effort to get us where we are today. So, I feel very confident in what we've accomplished up to this point. I feel very confident in their ability to execute on the things that are before us, and I'm full support of. And I also believe that that it would include us reconstituting the PSA and saying, hey, we're willing to make that commitment, and you guys go run, and knowing that we can always pull that back if we don't have those things met. But I think they need that commitment for us, and I know the business community is ready to get back out there and see each other and have great opportunities to mix and mingle and promote and grow and do the things that we were doing years ago, that when this place was just bustling. And I'm excited for that opportunity, and I think we've got the right leaders and people and stakeholders involved to get this done. So I would be in support of this. Thanks, Mayor.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go to Councilmember Felker next. Go ahead, Councilmember Felker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the dialogue that we've had on this topic. I appreciate the time out of this meeting, on the phone and so forth, and certainly appreciate all the council members, everyone who's made time for this. I know I appreciate those on the council who joined in our meetings, even though maybe it wasn't perhaps the thing, you may not have had an initial support for the process, but I appreciate that dialogue, and certainly appreciate all the members of the EDC board, those who are here and those who are not, who showed up early in the morning, or it was pretty much all early in the morning, maybe later in the morning, to meet with the members of council to just dialogue about where they were at, where we were at, and what we could do to perhaps find a path forward. So I sincerely appreciate that. Yeah, I was thinking about where we're at right now, and it's kind of like we're all like, I'm picturing two people on the dance floor. Really, I'm thinking of teenagers on the dance floor, and who's going to take the lead, and take the step out. And in a sense, we're both trying to do that. The board has tentatively approved the resolution that Mayor has recited for us today, to say you want to work with us, and we're kind of getting there here on our part. And so I hope at this point you just take our and using that dancing imagery, take us by the hand and just take us along the floor, and let's do the dance. Let's do it. As Councilmember Hodges said, let's get on with this. I think it's a heavy lift to go from where we're at to what is in front of us. Will what's on the screen be exactly precisely how this is done? I'm sure there will be some adjustments, and the board, you all have the prerogative to make decisions yourselves, and so, I mean, that's how you should operate. Hopefully this is good guidance. I think from my vantage point, I do see filling out the current board as an immediate, I say immediate, however quickly a reasonable filling out could, how long that might take, as being a really good show of faith for trying to move forward. I think finding a way to signal to the investors that you're going to reinitiate some programming of some kind, and then obviously encouraging the payment of dues and so forth, I think will be helpful. Yes, I agree with some of the comments today about urgency, transparency, all those things I think are great. I like what I see in the new bylaws. And what Councilmember DeMauro, what you had talked about is the idea of adding additional council members to additional council members to the EDC board. I know that that's certainly been discussed to some extent. I know it's not been approved from what I've heard, but I think that's a great addition to what the hard work that's already been done. I look forward to the community conversations. I think there's lots of energy that comes when we have those kind of discussions. Again, kind of going back to what's been said here, is when you get together and you see each other face to face, it makes such a big difference. And then I go back to Councilmember Lovell just said, a PSA proposal. And I would just say, there may be a point in time in this timeline, again, there's no timeline on this necessarily, but 6 months has been bandied about as being something of a window of time to work within. But, I would say to the EDC board that, if you in your judgment feel there's a PSA proposal that needs to be made, then make it, sell it to us, bring it forward. And I think the best way to sell something like that has to be coupled with showing the kind of progress we're talking about here. So, being able to see, hey, the wheels are in motion, we've got momentum, and, with the city more fully partnering with us, we'll be able to really take the train out of the station and get it to where we need to go. So I also hope, I know my little chart, and it doesn't really matter necessarily, but I know on our side, I think as a city, we have some things to do too. And Mayor, I know we've got on the bottom of our list here talking about an in-house community liaison. I would say that if we're giving a charge to the board, that we really should kind of reinitiate that initiate that conversation to know how we can, how staff could be supportive of the efforts for the EDC to kind of get back up off the ground. And I think our engagement as council members, whatever initiatives the EDC decides to take, I think our readiness and willingness to show up for those things, to engage, communicate, I think is really key to helping us move forward. So I don't think I've said anything really different than anyone else, or really much different than what we've got in front of us, but I certainly encourage the board and am excited to see what they do, and I'm certainly supportive of it.
Thank you. Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. So I definitely recognize that the consensus of council isn't where I was at the start of this meeting, and that's fine. Given what I'm hearing in the consensus, which I won't take away from you, Mayor, summarizing that, but what I would like to see then is an actual deadline, a real hard deadline. I'm going to throw out September 24th. That is the meeting that we have that's 6 months, just over 6 months from now. And I would set that as a deadline that I'd like to see. I understand that every single one of these bullet points may not be hit exactly as they are up here, but in terms of adopting bylaws, having a new board in place, having a mission statement and some initial strategic planning done, being at the point where we could consider entering into a public service agreement, because I think we can't responsibly allocate taxpayer dollars to this, obviously, until there is a structure in place that has the ability to execute on the mission that we would be sending them from the city. And I think sticking to that deadline, showing some deliverables, to me, would set the tone for what that PSA should look like in the future. That there is accountability, there are deadlines that must be met, there are deliverables that must be shown, there's transparency that needs to be there. And that's the kind of tone that I'd want to set if we're going to work with this organization in the future. So I understand things always take longer than we think they will, but I think there need to be some deadlines. And if for some reason a deadline doesn't look like it can be met, then I think there needs to be some actual discussion with council before a deadline passes about why it hasn't been met and what kind of extension is needed and what progress has been made to that point. That's the kind of structure that I would really like to see put in place to move forward with something like this. And then this last point on this, discuss staff support and participation. What would city staff provide some resources to help with this process, or what was the thought there? I'm just curious what that bullet point is for.
I'd have to turn to Mr. Dunning for, he's actually commented on this before, but I don't know about in this format.
I can share, at one point in time, the city had two full-time employees that were purely focused on economic development, bringing new development to town. That was one FTE. And then we had another FTE that was more focused towards redevelopment opportunities and looking at opportunities that within what we'd already developed and then repurposing buildings, reinvesting in certain areas. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, but like item 6 here, discuss staff support and participation in the above described LSCDC process. So I thought that was more like guiding them through the strategic planning and mission statements and board. Like, is that what that's talking about, or is it more general going forward staff involvement in economic development?
Yeah, my apologies. I would take that to be, hey, we need help, right? Staff working with EDC staff and the board on accomplishing this plan of action.
And do we have the resources? Like, is there a sort of a, I realize this is just a discussion point at this point, but like, do you have in mind who would be able to do that kind of assistance, or is that something that the city has the bandwidth capacity to do?
Well, I can tell you right now, with me being on the board, it's pretty much been me
Sure.
up to this point. Now, based on these needs, if we need to get into strategic plan, we can pull on resources as needed to help with this effort. I don't have any reservations about that from a capacity perspective.
Would the consensus of council here tonight be enough, or would you need some kind of a resolution to direct more staff resources to that, or what would we need to do to help make this successful?
Yeah, I think the consensus, the direction, the feedback from the council this evening is plenty to say, as the city manager, make sure we're putting the resources needed to help out with this initiative is fine.
Thank you. Councilmember Felker.
Just to add a comment on that, and I think, I think the way Mr. Dunning described it is a way that I think the mayor and I talked about it. In addition, I would say also on that other kind of framework, the idea that certain steps would likely be, and I think obviously this is the EDC's prerogative, would be consultant supported. And so that consultant, I would imagine, could be charged to, again, not to speak for the EDC board, but could be charged to not only engage with the EDC, but as needed to interface with whoever, whether it be Mr. Dunning, have to kind of make sure whatever resources need to come to bear could be brought to help push that forward. So I guess just adding that. We didn't really talk, Mayor, on this, what's on the screen now, about the fact that a consultant would likely be involved in some of this process, but again, at the EDC discretion, I would think that may be a part of what they want to do going forward, and could be a part of supporting this process differently than how it's been for the immediate.
They've identified a consultant that they want to work with, as the board has. Basically, lead them, help facilitate. Okay. Yes, Councilmember Shields.
Thank you. And any other council members, you feel free to hop in here too. I don't want to hog the mic all night. The other bullet point, discuss timeline for LCDC hiring an executive director. Has there been discussions about that? Would that happen?
I don't think
before
it's
this
possible.
like during this process or after?
I don't think it's possible to get a quality. I think this is fair to, and Mr. Dunning, you've been in the meeting, so I think it's hard to hire the quality executive director that you would need without knowing that you're going to have where your funding sources are going to be from, whether that's from your investors, private, or from the city, or from both. So I think that has to occur after a commitment from the council if we were to make one with regard to funding. That would give the organization the best ability to hire the most talented executive director possible.
So,
I think that has to happen after the six
so
months.
it would be maybe 6 months of, and this is really just a question, 6 months of organizing, planning, strategizing.
Well,
I
think-
just really want to understand for my own clarity, and then show the city
Sure.
council
So-
progress, get a new PSA, and then hire an executive director, and that might take a few more months.
Right, so Councilmember Felker actually put timelines on his spreadsheet on a lot of things, and
Okay.
I requested that he remove them because I don't want to be responsible for holding the EDC accountable to making a decision on something in 21 days. Like, I want to give them, I would love to, I know that council members have said that we can't approve anything without a PSA, but I do think, I'll ask Mr. Head in a moment. Mr. Head, you might get your wheels turning with regard to an action statement like the EDC did. We could do an action statement or something along those lines, I'm guessing, in which we say, hey, item number 2 through 1 through 6, you know, we are desirous to move forward with a conversation about a PSA and funding if the EDC will take on those items in good faith and come back to us, like you said, with a deadline within 6 months. And if it's sooner, then wonderful. I would love it to be 3 months, but I remember what it was like going through our strategic plan, and it was a challenge. Just coming up with the vision statement, mission statement, and core values took an entire day. I mean, like a total 8 hours. But I think that we can show good faith by saying, you know, it's also our intent. Here's some items for consideration. We look forward to accomplishing this with you, and then 6 months from now, let's put this PSA, or within 6 months, 6 months or less, let's put a PSA together and move forward. But that's just, that way we're not setting a timeline that we have to be fussy about that's 3 months from now. And if the EDC board can move it forward more quickly, then wonderful. Mr. Head?
I think there are a couple of ways that you could accomplish what you're talking about doing, Mayor. I mean, there's a sort of a less formal way would be just simply by a letter agreement. You just agree that this is the way we are going to interact during this interim 6 month period, and here are the sort of milestones during this period that we hope to reach. If you wanted to be slightly more formal, we could do something like a memorandum of understanding that sets out, you know, step by step. You know, it really, at this point, it's just a sense of these are the obligations of the parties. This is what we all say that we want to do. And so we're going to work in good faith toward these things. And I think you could do that in a very informal way. Or if we wanted to be a little bit more formal, we could also utilize that MOU sort of structure.
What was the first one you said? Letter of intent?
Sort of a letter of agreement.
Letter of agreement.
It really isn't binding on anyone. It just sets out so everyone remembers 3 months from now, this is how we said we were going to march through this process.
I like both, whatever council likes.
Do I still have the floor?
Yes, you do.
Okay. I think something like that makes sense, not committing to a formal PSA or funding until we actually see what that structure is. We can't enter into a contract, but having a framework and agreement to work forward, but with a deadline, and not to be fussy, but to me, this is already the extension to the extension, and at some point, we need to say, you know, I just don't want to be sitting here in a year and we're still arguing over vision statements. Like, that would not be acceptable. So I want to see, you know, substantial progress on all of these items in the next 6 months. And if they're not complete, then I want, prior to the expiration of that deadline, to hear why and talk about how much additional time is needed, rather than just, you know, no more, it's better to ask forgiveness than ask permission. Like, let's actually have discussions ahead of time before we blow through deadlines and this drags out forever. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Felker.
Mayor, just a quick comment, and I'm not sure Councilmember Shields was going down this path, but how the EDC sequences this, I think, again, is really on them. But it would seem like hiring a executive director would likely be something, you would want that, I think you'd want an executive director to be a part of the really robust strategic planning, rather than having the full strat plan, if you will, done before that person shows up. But in regards to that timeline and how things might be ordered.
Yep, makes sense. Okay, so how would we put together this letter of agreement or memorandum of understanding, Mr. Dunning or Mr. Head?
We would, if we've received direction from the council on kind of what's on the screen here, we could take this kind of language and structure it into a letter of agreement, bring that forward for council consideration and have a vote on that.
Feel good with that?
Really don't, it's not done under like a resolution or anything, or would it be like a resolution, Brian?
We would want to do it as a resolution. This is more of at this stage, it's still more of a policy matter as to how you want to proceed forward, creating this relationship between the city and the LSEDC. This isn't going to be sort of the PSA where we would have, performance measures and all of that sort of thing. So it doesn't have to be nearly as formal. But I do think a resolution approving this, maybe we could ask the LSEDC to do the same thing on their side. Is to please approve this using a resolution or a formal vote of their board.
You put that together for us? I don't know how quickly. How quickly, Mr. Dunning?
I'm thinking next week, right? We will need to have packets done by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Then we don't have a meeting on April 9th or 2nd, but April 9th would give us plenty of time. First meeting in April, for sure.
Okay, that would be this council.
Correct.
I heard that earlier. Okay. I think you have direction, sir. Appreciate council, all your feedback and the direction. We will forge ahead with our LSEDC. Second, sorry. All right. We are on proposed ordinances forwarded from committee. Member DeMora, would you please read bill number 24-044?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to advance to second reading bill number 24-044, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 9632 related to the schedule of fees and charges for the city of Lee Summit and establishing a new schedule of fees and charges to take effect July 1st, 2024 for the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-044 by Councilmember DeMora, seconded by Councilmember Shields. Discussion? Yes, Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to kind of clarify on the record that this schedule of fees won't include anything about the proposed parks fee, and that would require an amendment to the schedule of fees later. Is that correct? How would that work?
That is correct. There's nothing incorporated into this ordinance and this schedule of fees before you tonight. The way that would be structured is that would be a whole nother discussion. We'd come back and amend this schedule of fee if approved tonight. That's the way that would work.
Okay, I appreciate that. Just since we're voting on the other one, or it's on the agenda later this evening, I thought it'd be good to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Felker.
Thank you. And maybe a quick question for Mr. Gentry. And I appreciate, I know there's work been done in the Finance and Budget Committee to kind of work through this in the finer details, and I'm not going to rehash all that. But this is going to be just a real quick. Generally speaking, when these fees are raised, I always like to ask this question, which is, you're basing it on increased demand, changes in the market, maybe aligning with other jurisdictions, any other kind of bases for taking fees up? I mean, when we look at these kind of increases.
Good evening, Rick Gentry, Budget Manager. All of the above. So yes, the departments, depending on the area, for example, the airport, several of those are based upon the CPI index, cost of price of items going up as they do their rentals, fuel charges. They try to be competitive because it is a competitive market with the airport and because people can go other places. So they try to be competitive and try to get as much business as they can and cover their expenses. And most of our other departments are trying just to recover their expenses. The animal shelter, their costs are going up for spay and neutering of animals, so therefore they kind of pass part of that cost on to their people that are doing the adoptions and services. So yeah, all of the above.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Gentry, and
You're
thank you,
very
Mayor.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 8-1. Councilmember DeMoro, would you please read for adoption?
I move for adoption, Bill number 24-044, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 9632 related to the schedule of fees and charges for the city of Lee Summit and establishing a new schedule of fees and charges to take effect July 1st, 2024 for the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 24-044 by Councilmember DeMoro, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Also, it's adopted 8-1. Thank you. Next is Councilmember Edson. Would you please read Bill number 24-045?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for a second reading of Bill number 24-045, an ordinance approving a state block grant agreement for eligible preliminary project costs towards the preparation of a general aviation terminal design for the Lee Summit Municipal Airport between the city of Lee Summit, Missouri, and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission in the amount of $427,689, and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 24-045 by Councilmember Edson, seconded by Councilmember DeMoro. Discussion? Yes, Councilmember Felker.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this might be Mr. Parks. I don't see Mr. Anderson here, or he's hiding. No, it's Mr. Parks. Thank you. So we're talking about the terminal design. We're not talking about a tower.
We're not talking about a tower.
Sorry, I had that in my head for a second. I'm like, wait, we're not talking about a tower. And this source of funds, again, is mostly outside of, we're only putting about $20,000 as a city. This is coming like as a grant.
Yes, this is coming as grant funding, a combination mostly of federal grant, some state grant, but our share is, as you mentioned, a very small, less than 10% of the total cost.
And this is obviously designed, so build out, we deal with that at a future.
So we would wait for additional grant opportunities for actual construction.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? None, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 9-0. Councilmember Edson, would you please?
Thank you, Mayor. And members of council, if they haven't watched it, should go watch this Public Works meeting, because there are some exciting things coming to the airport, and they're all on this agenda right here. So I just want to point that out. I move for adoption of Bill number 24-045, an ordinance approving a state block grant agreement for eligible preliminary project costs towards the preparation of a general aviation terminal design for the Lee Summit Municipal Airport between the city of Lee Summit, Missouri, and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission in the amount of $427,689, and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 24-045 by Councilmember Edson, seconded by Councilmember Felker. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. That bill is adopted unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Pryor, would you please read Bill number 24-046?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to advance to a second reading, Bill number 24-046, an ordinance awarding the bid for project number 477-32472 for the LXT Hangar 2 and East Side Development Project to Fogel-Anderson Construction Co. in the amount of $16,833,559.53 and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 24-046 by Councilmember Pryor, seconded by Councilmember Felker. Discussion? Yes, Councilmember Lovell.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to point out, as we said on the Public Works Committee for this, this was a design, bid, build project, so another delivery method that we can use as a city. And it can be an effective way to ensure you're getting multiple opportunities to bid the work out. So that means, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but that means you've got a design group, you've got the GC working hand in hand, and then they go and then bid that out, and then that gets, you want to help me out, Mr. Parks? Park, sorry, I made it plural. It's a little different than the GMP stuff that we've done.
Yeah, this is a different delivery method than the GMP, which we typically have used more recently on vertical construction. This has been a traditional design bid build process where the city solicits through an RFQ process a design consultant. We work with that designer to prepare a set of construction documents. Then we go to advertise, we bid, we solicit construction companies to undertake that work, and then we award, as you're doing tonight, to a construction company who's prepared the best and lowest qualified bid.
Yeah, okay, great. Well, I think it's important, like, as we think about ways that we can do projects, it's not a GMP, but it is full construction drawings that go out to multiple GCs who have different subs and bid according to their resources, expertise, knowledge, whatever. So a great method to use, an alternative to some of the other methods we may use. But anyway, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Felker.
Put you on a pager, Mr. Park. Sorry, I should have said stay on up. So and to Councilmember Edson's point, this has probably been fleshed out in greater detail, and I'm not going to ask you to repeat the Public Works Committee, but whenever we have something of this magnitude, and I know we often read things routinely and perhaps without going into detail, but would you just summarize, this is a $16 million project, or almost 17, right? Yeah, and it is, I think, we're being funded by the GO bonds that were approved by voters in the last election. Can you just describe the project succinctly for,
Yes, this is a project.
Sorry, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Mr. Park, succinctly.
Right,
Yes.
yes.
Thank you.
This is a couple of projects married together. We're building the infrastructure, sewer lines, stormwater lines, water lines, the paving, parking lots, and roadways to service the east side development of our airport, as that master plan calls for, as well as then a hangar, very large hangar similar to Hangar 1. Co-locating in that hangar, it will be our interim terminal space, as well as the aviation program with the R7 school district. And so that is the project, two projects, vertical and infrastructure horizontal.
Yep. And the impact of this, I think, is just for the sake of the public understanding, like, this is significant. We're opening up, we say east side, we're on the west side right now. We're not on the east side. And so there's a whole, if you will, column, if you will, of areas that we can develop and can also spur perhaps other private development surrounding over time.
Even more so probably that private investment. And we knew this would open the door to that development opportunity, and we are surely seeing it probably quicker than we anticipated.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Park, and thank you, Mayor. I know that, again, I don't want to shortchange all the work that was done elsewhere in other committees, but it's, I think, helpful for citizens to have the chance to hear a little bit about it if they might only be tuning into this meeting. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. 9-0. Councilmember Pryor, would you please?
I move for adoption, Bill number 24-046, an ordinance awarding the bid for project number 477322472 for the LXT Hangar 2 and East Side Development Project to Fogel-Anderson Construction Co. in the amount of $16,833,559.53 and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to to adopt Bill number 24-046 by Councilmember Pryor, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. And it's adopted. Thank you. Councilmember Lovell, would you please read Bill number 24-047?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to advance the second reading Bill number 24-047, an ordinance approving modification number 7 of the agreement with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley Incorporated for on-call professional planning and engineering services for the airport, RFQ number 2020-067, the amount of $353,000, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading Bill number 24-047 by Councilmember Lovell, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It moves to second reading unanimously. Councilmember Lovell, would you please?
I move for adoption Bill number 24-047, an ordinance approving modification number 7 of the agreement with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley Incorporated for on-call professional planning and engineering services for the airport, RFQ number 2020-067, in the amount of $353,000, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 24-047 by Councilmember Lovell, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. That bill is adopted unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Felker, would you please read Bill number 24-048?
Certainly, Mayor. I move to advance the second reading, Bill number 24-048, an ordinance approving a state block grant agreement for eligible preliminary project costs toward the construction of the Runway 11-29 Taxiway Bravo and Taxiway Charlie Reseal, Joint Seal, and Remarking project for the Lee Summit Municipal Airport between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri, and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission in the amount of $203,813, and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 24-048 by Councilmember Felker, seconded by Councilmember Pryor. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It moves to second reading unanimously. Councilmember Felker, would you please?
Mayor, I move for the adoption of Bill number 24-048, an ordinance approving a state block grant agreement for eligible preliminary project costs toward the construction of the Runway 11-29 Taxiway Bravo and Taxiway Charlie Reseal, Joint Seal, and Remarking project for the Lee Summit Municipal Airport between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri, and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission in the amount of $203,813, and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 24-048 by Councilmember Felker, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. That bill is adopted unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Shields, would you please read Bill number 24-049?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for second reading of Bill number 24-049, an ordinance authorizing the execution of Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Amendment to State Block Grant Agreement, Amendment number 1 for project number 22-109A-1, by and between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri, and Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission, granting federal funds in the amount of $391,546 for the construction of the Runway 11-29 Taxi Bravo and Taxi Charlie Reseal, Joint Seal, and Remarking project, and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 24-049 by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It's unanimous to second reading. Councilmember Shields, would you please?
Thank you, Mayor. I now move for adoption of Bill number 24-049, an ordinance authorizing the execution of Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Amendment to State Block Grant Agreement, and Amendment number 1 for project number 22-109A-1, by and between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri, and Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission, granting federal funds in the amount of $391,546 for the construction of the Runway 11-29 Taxi Bravo and Taxi Charlie Reseal, Joint Seal, and Remarking project, and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 24-049 by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It's adopted unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Hodges, would you please read Bill number 24-050?
I move to second reading Bill number 24-050, an ordinance approving the dual award of bid number 2024-050 for concrete flat work, curb installation, and street repair services on an as-needed basis for a one-year term with up to 4 one-year renewals to Quality Custom Concepts Incorporated and Hotmer Excavation LLC and authorizing the city manager to execute the same by and on behalf of the city.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-050 by Councilmember Hodges, seconded by Councilmember Pryor. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It's adopted. Councilmember Hodges, would you please?
I move for the adoption of bill number 24-050, an ordinance approving the dual award of bid number 2024-050 for concrete flatwork, curb installation, and street repair services on an as-needed basis for a one-year term with up to 4 one-year renewals to Quality Custom Concepts Incorporated and Hotmer Excavation LLC, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same by and on behalf of the city.
Thank you. I have a motion to move to adopt bill number 24-050 by Councilmember Hodges, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Now it's adopted. The first one was the second reading. That was adoption. Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, would you please read bill number 24-051?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I move for second reading of bill number 24-051, an ordinance awarding the bid for project number 721-1 for the water main replacement fiscal year 23 project to Wiedemann, Inc., in the amount of $3,598,602, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-051 by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It does move to second reading unanimously. Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, would you please?
Yes, thanks. I now move for adoption of bill number 24-051, an ordinance awarding the bid number for project number 721-1 for the water main replacement fiscal year 23 project to Wiedenmann, Inc., in the amount of $3,598,602, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt bill number 24-051 by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It's adopted unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember DeMauro, would you please read bill number 24-052?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to advance the second reading, bill number 24-052, an ordinance approving the award of bid for project number 81132-472 for the 2024 pavement marking services for a one-year term with up to 4 one-year renewals to Heartland Traffic Services, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-052 by Councilmember DeMauro, seconded by Councilmember Pryor. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It's unanimous. Councilmember DeMauro, would you please?
I move for adoption, bill number 24-052, an ordinance approving the award of bid for project number 81132-472 for the 2024 pavement marking services for a one-year term up to 4 one-year renewals to Heartland Traffic Services, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt bill number 24-052 by Councilmember DeMauro, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It's adopted unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Shields, would you, no, yes, Councilmember Shields, would you please read bill number 24-053?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for second reading of bill number 24-053, an ordinance approving the use of a cooperative contract between Johnson County, Kansas and Wiedemann, Inc., SheDigsIt LLC, and TC Fuller Construction LLC for on-call construction services as needed, and authorizing city manager to execute agreements for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 24-053 by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It's unanimous. Councilmember Shields, would you please?
Thank you, Mayor. I now move for adoption of bill number 24-053, an ordinance approving the use of a cooperative contract between Johnson County, Kansas and Wiedemann, Inc., SheDigsIt LLC, TC Fuller Construction LLC for on-call construction services as needed, and authorizing the city manager to execute agreements for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt bill number 24-053 by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Please cast your vote. record the vote. It's unanimous. Thank you. Councilmember Edson, would you please read Bill number 24-054?
Mayor, I would be happy to read the 10th ordinance that was presented at the Public Works Committee on March 11th. That's on our agenda tonight.
Impressive.
And
Very
that I
impressive.
chaired because the chair was out of town. I just want to point that out. Mayor, I move for second reading of Bill number 24-054, an ordinance awarding the bid for project number 792-SS for the Surface Seal FY25 Program to Vance Brothers, Inc. in the amount of $1,441,995.29 and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 24-054 by Councilmember Edson, seconded by Councilmember Shields. Discussion? Yes, Councilmember DeMoro.
To the defense of the actual chairman of the Public Works Commission, I was out of town trying to get money for more items to take to the Public Works.
I can vouch for him. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Moves to second reading unanimously. Councilmember Edson, would you please?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for adoption of Bill number 24-054, an ordinance awarding the bid for project number 792-SS for the Surface Seal FY25 Program to Vance Brothers, Inc. in the amount of $1,441,995.29 and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 24-054 by Councilmember Edson, seconded by Councilmember Pryor. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It's unanimous. Adopted. Thank you. Takes us to proposed ordinances. First reading. Councilmember Pryor, would you please read Bill number 24-055?
Thank you, Mayor. I had moved to advance to a second reading, Bill number 24-055, an ordinance approving amendment number 11 to the budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, is adopted by ordinance number 9704, ordinance number 9705, ordinance number 9706, ordinance number 9707, and ordinance number 9708 by amending the authorized expenditures for the city.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 24-055 by Councilmember Pryor, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Yes, Councilmember Felker.
Thank you, Mayor. I just asked Mr. Elam if he might just briefly summarize this. I know, I think we're following up on prior conversations, now formalizing in the budget some of our earlier decisions in relation to the downtown. Can you just speak to that briefly?
Yes, sir. Ryan Elam, Assistant City Manager. So this is the follow-up ordinance to reallocate funds from some of our capital improvement funds, as well as the general fund, into what we call Fund 359. That's the Green Street Improvement Fund. And this is the formal step in the budget amendment to allocate those funds to the project fund.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. That bill moves to second reading unanimously. Thank you. And it takes us to proposed ordinances second reading. Councilmember Lovell, would you please read Bill number 24-041?
I move for adoption, Bill number 24-041, an ordinance adding Article 3, Parks and Recreation Impact Fees to Chapter 19, Parks and Recreation of the Lee Summit Code of Ordinances.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 24-041 by Councilmember Lovell, seconded by Councilmember Shields. Discussion? Yes, Councilmember DeMoro.
Thank you, Mayor. I was a little distressed tonight to hear from Mr. Reuter that after my comments last week that there was no discussion or collaboration with the Home Builders Association or any builders, to discuss an appropriate fee structure for this particular fee. And I just thought in the 2 weeks that there would be some discussion having been made after the comments of myself and others. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I know last week, or 2 weeks ago, I voted yes for the fee, and I know that you said that whenever it comes before us, depending on what the fee is, we can change it. But I've been thinking about it a lot, and I just don't know how I feel about approving the fee, not even knowing the ballpark and what the fee's going to be. So I feel like, and then hearing Mr. Reuter say that there has not been any communication and that no one's reached out to him, I was wondering if, so I've never made a motion before, but I was wondering if we could make a motion to postpone it, if we could get more of a ballpark figure of where they're thinking the fee's going to be. But if we could make a motion to postpone it, I know that it needs to be before the next election, but just so some communication, I'd feel better about voting for something, because like I've stated, I'm not against a park's impact fee. I am against it being extremely expensive, or at least what I feel like is extremely expensive. But if I could make a motion to postpone it, maybe March 26th, or I know that somebody said that April 9th is still our current council. I don't know how that works, but.
Yeah, we've got 2 more meetings with this council.
Okay.
Next week and April the 9th.
Okay.
And I think it's, what Councilmember is asking, Mr. Head, is can she make a motion to table this until one of those dates? Does she need to do a date certain?
I think the motion to postpone in this instance is more appropriate. We had a little bit of discussion earlier, Councilmember Pryor and I did, because we have such a short time. And if we table, and if it's not taken up by the time you hit sine die, then the issue dies. It falls to the floor and is dead. So since we have such a short time, I think a motion to postpone to a date certain would be preferred in this instance.
So, Councilmember Pryor, would you make that motion to, I think it's more appropriate probably to, even though it's tight, April 9th is tight, I think it gives time for communications to happen and, if this vote even passes, if people even approve to postpone it. But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
can you make that motion?
I just think that communication is very important. Okay, so I don't exactly know how to word it, but I'm sure Councilmember Shields will help me, because she's. And so you said April 9th, you think is the better date?
That's a lot better than Tuesday of next
Okay.
week. 'Cause,
Yeah, no, I agree. I just wanted to make sure before
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm seeing heads nod that would be a more appropriate date.
Okay. I move to postpone bill number 24-041 to a date certain of April 9th, 2024.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to postpone the adoption of this bill to a date certain of April 9th, 2024 by Councilmember Pryor, and a second by Councilmember DeMoro. So we have other people lined up to discuss, so I'm just going to go in that order.
Mayor, point of order, please. I have a question for Mr. Head before we proceed.
Okay.
Mr. Head, would this be considered tabling or just postponing?
This is just postponing.
Okay, all right, because the reason I ask that is because when you table something, there is no debate, no discussion. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So I will start with Councilmember Felker.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually would like, if we could, to have Mr. Snook just comments.
Yeah, it's been said that he hasn't communicated, and then council member said that he hadn't, there hasn't been a communication. So Mr. Snook, please come on up.
Joe Snook, Administrator of the Parks Department. That's correct. I have not had a conversation with the Home Builders Association. Immediately after the meeting on March 5th, I left and drove to St. Louis for a conference, and I was out of town for that entire week. I got back last week and has been playing catch up. I do have a process that has to be followed. I have a park board. There's an administrative park board that are my bosses, and so I feel I have a duty and a responsibility to have a conversation with them related to the fees before I go out and have conversations and try to negotiate some kind of fee outside of this arena. Will that happen? Yes, I heard the direction from the city council 2 weeks ago that asked that we have those conversations, and when I'm prepared and I have conversations that are given to me by the park board, then I'll be happy to have those conversations.
Okay, just a couple things. So that board meeting, Parks and Rec board meeting is next week, right?
Yes, we have a park board meeting next week.
That you anticipate having that conversation then?
I'll be updating them on the results of the March 5th meeting, and we'll have some conversation next week.
And in terms of engaging with others with an interest in this issue, do you have plans? Is it something you want to more or less wait for the board feedback before you then reach out to the broader community?
Well, I feel more comfortable waiting for the board feedback before I go out and have conversations. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Snook. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Lovell.
Just to be clear, this is not voting or approving any fees, just that we are agreeing to add a Parks and Recreation impact fee. That's correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So, I guess if I'm talking about the amendment, or am I supposed to, or what should I?
Yeah, on the amendment, it's an amendment to postpone, and I think Councilmember Pryor, I'll let her speak, but she said first, I'll let her add on, but she said she'd like to see communication happen between the
So should
HBA
I
and
talk
the
about
park.
whether I'm in favor of
Of the
postponing?
postponing,
Yeah,
yep.
okay. So I would not be in favor of postponing this ordinance based on the information, the detailed spreadsheets that we went through, the shortfall of cash, how the parks operates, hearing the testimony of the Home Builders Association, but also knowing that this is something there is a delta account for with the future development coming. So I think this is the right move to approve the ordinance, allow Mr. Snook go back to the park board, meet with the Home Builders Association, then come back to present to us a scheduled fees. I don't feel that we necessarily need to postpone this based on the discussion from last week. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I would concur with Councilmember Lovell that, again, this is just putting in place a framework to have this kind of a fee, and the council could set a $0 fee if we have that discussion, so we really don't want to. But there is a process in place for this to go through Finance and Budget Committee, to have that discussed and come back to council for additional discussions. So there should be a lot of time, and I'm sure that the staff will take away from this conversation that we expect for there to be some more discussions before those presentations come to committee and to council with a revision to that fee structure. So I think I agree there should be discussion, but I think that can happen in the context of the actual fee schedule that would go to council, because right now there was a presentation, but there's no actual fee schedule that we're voting on yet. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pryor, are you back on, or did I just forget to, I'm sorry.
No, I was back on, but if Councilmember Felker wanted to speak first, I was just going to clarify what.
Go ahead, please clarify.
Okay. I think that the only reason I wanted to make a motion to postpone it is because there's got to be compromise. We have one group that isn't anti-parks, but feels that the fee is unfair, and then we have another group that really wants the fee, and so I just felt like maybe through communication they could come to a compromise somehow before it's presented to us to vote on, because I feel like once it's approved, or if it's approved, it's going to receive more momentum, and then I feel like at that point it's going to be harder to not approve a fee versus if we get ahead of it, have them communicate before we approve having a park impacts fee at all. So that's just a little clarification.
Thank you. Councilmember Felker.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the comments, and now I'm just kind of speaking on the motion. So I know I'm going to be in favor of the fee in general. I'm more than happy to see us have a conversation about what the dollar amount is. So while I appreciate the sentiment of trying to put the two together. I think I'm going to be voting against the motion because I want to just kind of move this piece along and then kind of hammer out, as we get more feedback, the actual dollar amount that makes more sense. So, again, that's how I'll vote tonight.
Okay, I was going to agree with you, but, are you done, sir?
Yeah, I'm good.
So, I was going to agree with you, but I guess I'm not going to agree with you. I thought you said that you're going to vote for an impact fee, which I'm going to vote for.
Yes.
So I agree with that. And then I thought you said that you're all for more communication, which I'm for. But you're going to vote against postponing it to have that conversation, which I just want to clarify. I'm going to support Councilmember Pryor's motion, but not because I want Mr. Snook to negotiate with the Home Builders Association. I just want I want two things, a communication so that we can say that we did our due diligence. And then number two, I would like to see, what I thought I heard was, what's a ballpark on these fees? I thought we had a ballpark, like Councilmember Lovell said. I thought we discussed this, and I was pretty comfortable with what I heard, including what he proposed. What he proposed was a modification, but I'm willing to have that talked about again, because I don't feel like I know for sure that those amounts were where we're going to end up. And so I do not mind having one more conversation about this before we vote, is what I'm saying. But I am for a park impact fee, and I really appreciate what Mr. Reuter said tonight when he said we shouldn't be in a position to be anti-parks or anti-houses, because, man, that's exactly how I feel in this situation for all of us. I feel like we're in a tough spot because we want to support parks. And the last thing I can't even imagine being seen as anti-housing. So therefore, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that I showed good faith that we did our due diligence. So I don't know if that makes sense, but so I'm going to support Councilmember Pryor's motion. Yes, please.
And just more for just understanding the process of what comes next. Whenever this authorization is approved, there will then be a subsequent, yes, I'm asking for confirmation, there will be a subsequent fee proposal, which could be done the same day we do this, or it could be done a later day.
The way I
Will it be
understand,
done in the budget process? Is that when it's anticipated would likely be presented as part of the overall?
I don't want to speak for Joe, but it will be a separate, right? This is to the, I think Councilmember Shields' point. This is just establishing the framework for a fee to be imposed. It doesn't establish an amount. That's a discussion and further conversations that will be held, as you heard from Mr. Snook, with the Park Board, with the HBA, with other stakeholders, having the feedback that was received from the council on the previous meeting. So that all this ordinance does, create the framework. Need to have more discussions on the actual fee to bring that back forward through the Parks Board and then back to the council as a whole.
Okay. Yep. So again, I'll just say I think we're still giving everyone the opportunity. If we were to, I think we're kind of slicing a few different things in different ways, but whether we approved this today or moved it to another day, I certainly am in favor of having more discussion. I'll continue to vote against the motion just because I figure, well, let's just move forward with the park impact fee, and then that dialogue is still going to continue about the actual fee amount. But again, thank you for the clarification, Mr. Dunning. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Hodges.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, if the more I've been thinking about this, so have we done a cost projection of, all the list of things that we want to, or that the Parks is wanting to create down the road, but with all the new projects, have we done a cost projection about, I would just want to make sure that we won't become too park heavy to where later on down the road, because the Parks impact fee cannot pay for any of the maintenance. I just want to be sure that we've projected out to account for all of the projects that are wanting to be done with the park impact fee to ensure that we're not going to later on down the road be asking the citizens for a new tax because we need help to cover all of those projects later on down the road.
Mr. Snook, you're the only one that can answer that question, sir.
So has there been a formal study? No. So I would anticipate that as the community grows and we have the park impact fee, we build the new facilities. As we discussed a couple weeks ago, our property tax is that funding that we use to pay for the maintenance in our parks. So as more people move into our community, we will have more property tax, which will then allow us to take care of the maintenance needs in the park system.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilmember DeMoro?
Thank you, Mayor. That sparked a question in my mind, and that is the MOUs for land dedication. We also don't have any idea of how much land is going to be dedicated from even just the PRI land. So, you know, that's still hanging out there. You know, if we start adding money, a fee, and then all of a sudden we don't spend that money, I know there's a 10-year window, but it goes along with Councilmember Hodges' question. We have all this money we have to spend because we've received all this land, so we can't spend the money. What happens to the money? Thank you.
All right. So I appreciate those comments, but I'd like to figure out Councilmember Pryor's vote first. So Councilmember Lovell, help me out here.
I was just going to rebut
do we postpone
Councilmember
it, or do
DeMoro's
we-
points, but it's not related
I'll
to this.
let you counter him in a second. Let me get the vote out
Okay.
there. Because, like I said, I'm for it. I think most of us up here are for it, but do we want to see a conversation happen before April 9th? Or are we good debating this? And I think we will end up debating this probably pretty heavily, what the amount of these fees are later on, right? So do we want to postpone just to vote for this on April 9th? Or, given a conversation would happen, or do we want to go ahead and pass it, or, vote no against Councilmember Pryor's amendment to, motion to postpone so that we can go ahead and vote and then just wait for the big debate later on what the amount is. So right now, let's vote on finish discussing Councilmember Pryor's motion. Do you want to see it go to April 9th? Or do you want me to just call for the vote? Call for the vote. In favor is the postponement, by the way. Okay. We have a vote recorded, and it's 6 in favor of postponing till April 9th and 3 against, so we will actually not vote on this. We will wait till April 9th. Mr. Snook, please reach out to Mr. Reuter. I don't think a negotiation is what we're looking for. I think we're looking for feedback and a conversation, and I think Mr. Reuter knows that there's a good chance this is going to pass, but it is an opportunity for him to have a conversation with our administrator. So, Councilmember DeMoro, did you want to make another comment, or did I forget? Does anybody else want to make a comment before I move on?
You still have a motion on the table. We have
But
a
we
motion to
postponed it.
move this forward.
No.
But we moved,
We moved to postpone this adoption
but-
till April 9th.
but first we moved to discuss it. Do we need to remove?
We
No, we
voted.
don't. Okay, I'm sorry.
We voted to postpone it till April 9th.
No, I get that.
So I just want to make sure if you wanted to have a chance to clarify how you feel, because like Councilmember Lovell didn't get a chance to counter some of the comments, because I too am for that impact fee, but if we need to have, I like as much consensus as possible on the dais, and Councilmember Pryor still wants information. That's what I heard, and maybe others want information too, so. That's why we're postponing it, and that will take us to committee reports. Boy, Public Works, they get to take the rest of the year off. Councilmember DeMoro.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended as chairman of the License Tax Review Committee on last Friday. There was a lot of discussion about the license tax for commercial, residential, and industrial. The discussion ended up after a lot of discussion about, and I'm not trying to be, say it over and over, but we had a lot of discussion about attainable housing, and adding a higher fee, raising those fees would prevent people from moving to Lee Summit and afford a house. So the consensus of that committee was to leave the rates the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Edson.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, in addition to chairing Public Works for Councilmember DeMoro last week, I also chaired CEDC, where we got to review have the annual CDBG public hearing. And that's probably one of my favorite meetings of the year, because we actually get to take federal funds and do something good with it. And so that will be coming to council soon. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? Council comments? Council comments. Yes, Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you. Well, so I was just wondering, because this question's come up quite a few times, does our airport have room to expand their runway? Or is it maxed out?
Mr. Park?
There is no plan in our airport master plan to extend the runway.
Is there room to extend it if there ever were to be a plan, or is it?
I mean, to effectively extend it to add a different level of capacity, I don't believe so. You say extend a foot, 2 foot, whatever. No, I mean, we don't have any intentions of doing that. It's not in our plan. It's not in our budgets. I think for us to, which we don't have any, again, desire to go to another level of airport service, you would have to substantially extend the airport, and I don't believe there's space for that physically to do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lovell.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just curious if, we've had a lot of discussion, certainly had some vocal opposition to multifamily and things like that. And I know it's been a while since at least since I've been on the dais, since we revisited some numbers. And what I was thinking more broadly was rental units that have come online, say, year over year for like the last 3 years or 4 years or something, so that we would know the amount of rental units that have increased. And I think that would be important for us to understand, what we've added to the community versus for sale. I don't know if that would.
Yeah, we have that. They have that data.
Yeah.
So we can.
And I don't know how far back it would be interesting to go, but just kind of seeing. And I would suggest not necessarily, and I don't know if we would want to include starts, right? So they aren't done and fully occupied, or if we could discern between those two, but it might be interesting to look at that. And then something.
I think they go by permits.
Okay. And then something non-related. Do we ever get like some sort of crime statistics or like how we've done year over year? And I don't know what level of criminal activity or anything like that. I just think it would be interesting to see as we've grown, how has our impact on crime been like over the last 3 years? I don't know if Chief Forbes wants to address that, or what kind of data we could get and look at as our population grows.
Mayor, members of council, Travis Forbes, Chief of Police. We participate in the National Incident-Based Reporting System, NIBRS. It's the FBI's reporting system that gives us annual data on crime statistics. We did switch to that. It's a new system that's about 3 or 4 years old. It used to be the Uniform Crime Reporting, or what they called UCR, so that caused a little difficulty looking way back in time because of that change. But yes, every year we produce those statistics. We'll be producing those in our annual report, which should be published in the next month or so.
And is that something that you present here, or it gets published and then?
It's
we go-
published, and we usually push out and by published, I mean digitally published. We no longer print it.
Gotcha.
To preserve some costs, but we usually push the link out to council so they can read it. And it's
Great.
also just generally available on our website.
And that would be for current year, or does it also go back? Like, does it
It
show
goes-
trends and?
Usually we go back about 3 to 5
Okay.
years. With the
Great.
NIBRS change, it created comparison problems from year to year. But generally speaking, our crime has remained very, very steady for the last, I've been here 10 years. So for the last 10 years, it's been very, very steady, with occasional spikes in certain categories that just tend to level back off. And
It does categorize it to kind of different
does, it
levels
does.
and, okay. Well, I just think it'd be interesting to see. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Absolutely.
Yep, on the other item, let's get an agenda item, so that staff can prepare for it. And, because they can bring up numbers, but I'd rather have more of a presentation or something, because I think, development's still happening and stuff's gonna come before us and we need information. So, Mr. Dunning, we need to game plan and then try to set a date. And then I need to communicate whatever that date is likely to be, what we put on our, that chart that you use.
Future council meeting discussions.
Thank you. Councilmember Hodges.
Thank you. I just wanted to piggyback on Councilmember Lovell in regards to the rental aspect. I didn't know if we could maybe take it one step further. I've kind of been curious about the breakdown of what type of rentals we have in Lee Summit and the numbers of those, like how much government subsidized housing do we have compared to non, and just I didn't know if that was something that we could, the numbers if that's attainable to even get those numbers for that, but I would be curious just to see that breakdown as well.
I don't think we don't have that information. I mean, we have our stuff as far as like our, go ahead, sir.
I was going to say, so we can go back to our last study that will give us some level of that, but I don't think that's going to get into if I owned a single-family home or owned a home and I chose to accept Section 8 vouchers. It's not going to capture that level. I hear Ryan coming, and maybe he's going to correct me here.
Ryan Elam, Assistant City Manager. So we can prepare kind of an analysis on the rental units in the community and see if we can look at trends over the last 5 years. We actually have our permit data that goes back to the 1960s by unit type, year over year by unit type. The challenge with that is that doesn't account for a breakdown between single family or rental. Or not for sale or for rent, because you have townhomes that are for sale, you also have townhomes that are for rent, and things like that. So there's a little bit of nuance to the data, but if we have an agenda topic to discuss, we can look at kind of doing an analysis of our rental units overall.
When you do that, though, just to her point, Councilmember Hodges' point, even though we can't calculate very easily what homes have vouchers and such, can you at least, do we have someone on staff that can at least explain the process? Because, there's different entities, and these vouchers can come from all over the metro, and that's why they're not databased in one house that we have access to. Unless there is, I don't think there is a way to access that information based on city. I mean, I've never seen that before.
We'll have to take a look into
Okay.
what information
Yeah,
is
maybe just an
available,
overview.
and we
Just,
can discuss
it doesn't have
the
to be a deep
process.
dive on that, just general,
Yeah.
to help us. Because it's a question that we actually get a lot, and it would help if we could explain why we don't have the information, why, because, hey, here's how vouchers work, and here's the organizations that they come from, and it's not all the Lee Summit Housing Authority that issues these and such, so. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Any other council comments? Staff roundtable?
Just some quick items, Mayor and Council. Wednesday, March 27th, we will be hosting our second career fair. So if you know of anyone interested in career in public service, local government, that'd be a great opportunity. So that's Wednesday, March 27th at the Gamber Center between 2 and 6 p.m. We'll have all kinds of folks there to have discussions with folks about interest in local government. This Thursday, March 21st, at 2 o'clock, we'll be doing the hose uncoupling at Fire Station number 5 down on 150 in the Raintree area. So that's be an exciting event we have coming up. And then I did a quick calculation on the 5 ordinances related to the airport, $18.2 million investment tonight that we've sunk into that airport. So that's a big lift and a lot of great excitement and good things coming to the airport. That's it, Mayor. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, I need someone to read us into closed session, please. Councilmember Demorrow.
Thank you, Mayor. Pursuant to Section 610021 of the revised statutes of the state of Missouri pertaining to individually identifiable personnel records, and performance ratings or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment, I move for closed session.
Second.
Motion to move to closed session by Councilmember Demorrow, seconded by Councilmember Shields. Discussion? Hearing none, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Demorrow.
Aye.
Councilmember Shields.
Aye.
Councilmember Edson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pryor.
Aye.
Councilmember Lovell.
Aye.
Councilmember Felker.
Aye.
Councilmember Hodges.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Mayor Baird.
Aye. Everybody have a good night.